And we are live. Welcome to Glamorous Closet, guys. Hi, welcome to Glamorous Closet. For anyone who shows up in the chat, I just want to say hello in advance. Since it's a tutorial video, we're probably not going to get too friendly as far as like distraction goes. Hey Jennifer, hi Patrick. So since it's a tutorial video, I'm going to spend just a minute or two saying hello. But then we're going to jump right into the tutorial. The reason why I'm doing this is because I've actually had more than one person in the past month ask. I've had 3 people so far in the past month ask me about measurements on clothing and what to measure and how to do that. It's second nature for resellers that deal with clothing a great deal, like on Poshmark, maybe on Etsy, things like that. Hi, Raquel. But for hard goods resellers or people who are new to reselling, it could be something that could be very, very helpful, because it's one of those things that you find out through videos, and hopefully this will be the video that everybody starts looking for. Keep your fingers crossed. So, but Patrick has no idea how to measure. Well, we've hopefully taught you a little bit of something along the way. But I'm glad that you all could make it to my live. Hi, Deb. How you doing? And as I mentioned before, I apologize now for anyone who comes in after this. I'm going to be trying to convert this to an actual video instead of just a live. So for anyone who's coming in after this, just everybody tell them hi for me, I guess. And we'll go ahead and get this started. So welcome to Glamorous Closet. Today we are going to talk about measuring clothing. And one of the biggest sales that I see with people who don't normally sell clothing are hard goods resellers who sell T-shirts. They sell vintage T-shirts. It's a pretty simple measurement, and it's one that is sort of the first step for everybody. So let's grab a T-shirt and show you how. Now this is an Acris Punto T-shirt, so fancy. And I want you to meet my very best friend in the world when it comes to taking photos. It is this guy. Just a plain tape measure. You can do it with a mechanical tape measure, but it's not as easy. And here's how we go. First things first, take a look at this armpit. On this armpit, there is actually a seam between the front and back of the shirt. And that is where we want to start our measurement on one side and end it on the other armpit. So when I'm measuring this, I'm going to go Isn't this a flattering picture of me? It's so hot. Okay, so I'm going to go from this armpit across the chest to this armpit. Now, you don't want to stretch it out too much. You don't want to stretch it more than it would normally stretch, but you also don't want to leave wrinkles in between, because those wrinkles would need to be measured. So from this side, I have the 1, and on this side, I have, at that exact seam, it meets 22¼ inches. So you can see that is 22¼ inches on that seam. There's the seam right there, and then there's the 22¼ So when I'm posting those measurements in my listing, I post 22¼ and I say across the chest. If it's a lady's garment like a dress, I usually say across the bust, but across the chest, across the bust is good. I wouldn't say pit to pit. it's people, for some reason, the word pit just turns people off. Go figure. Now, when I'm measuring the height of this shirt, the length of the shirt, I like to start at the right about next to the collar. And so I'm going to start this just a couple inches down from the collar, just to get kind of a good idea of where it's going to hit on the shoulder. And I would go down and measure it lengthwise. And I hate it when this happens. Sometimes your tape measure will turn itself upside down and it'll be a centimeter tape measure. But as you can see, it is almost 26 inches long. It's actually 25 3/4 inches long. So again, on my measurements, I would say 25 3/4 of an inch or 25.75 inches long. And from across and long for a shirt like this, or a shirt in general, unless it is a men's dress shirt, that is the perfect measurement. And that's really all you have to measure. Let's move on to jeans. Because I think the second thing that most resellers come across at some point or another is jeans or pants. So these are a pair of lovely vintage Jag jeans. And for jeans, we have 3 measurements that we want to take. And so for jeans, the first thing that we want to do is measure it across the waist. Sorry, that got caught in my hair. Across the waist, starting on the left side, and just measure it all the way across, making sure that you pull that taut so that you get the most accurate waist measurement. And that is upside down, but I can see it. It's 14 1/4 inches. And so whenever I write that down, I would say 14.25 inches across the waist. The next thing that we're going to measure on jeans is the rise. And the rise is from the top of the crotch to the bottom. In every crotch of pants, there is a place where all 4 seams meet. And so your measurement ends at where all 4 seams meet. And so on this one, let's hold it up to the camera so you can see. Where all 4 seams meet, it's almost 13 inches, not quite. It's 12 3/4 inches. So that would be considered the rise on the jeans. And anything over about 11 inches, they consider high rise. So these would definitely be considered high rise jeans. Now, the third measurement on the jeans is the inseam. And that would start, again, at that cross section in the crotch. And you want to just hold on to that. Hold on to your measuring tape at the crotch. I usually like to bunch it over. And then just go straight down the inside of the leg. That is the inseam. And for jeans, it's really important to give those measurements because jeans shrink and cotton shrinks in a dryer. So you always want to make sure that when you're selling jeans or pants of any kind, that you do those measurements. Also, because people will ask you, well, do you think it will fit me? Somebody's going to ask you that. And the answer is, please check the measurements for a fit. So at the hem, we have the end of the inseam, and that's 28 1/4 inches. So I'd put 28.25 inches. And that is how you measure jeans. Now, I'm going to give you a trick question. How do we measure this, which is a blouse, a long sleeve blouse? Here's the simple answer. We measure it just like we do a t-shirt. We measure it from pit to pit. We don't say pit to pit in our listing. We say across the chest or across the bust. But we would measure it pit to pit. And then we would measure it again from about 2 inches from which hit the shoulders, which is about 2 inches down from the start of the collar. And we would measure it all the way down here to the hem. If you have 2 different lengths, so if you have, like, let's say that you have a shirt that is shorter in the front than it is in the back, I would recommend strongly that you do the length measurements for both the front and the back. And then that way, the person knows if it'll cover their bottom or what have you. Here is an LaFleur jacket from my closet, one of my favorite pieces. And the measurements for a jacket would be exactly the same as a shirt. You measure from pit to pit, and you measure from 2 inches from the collar all the way down to the hem. So hopefully that'll help you in listing, and hopefully it'll help you in measuring. Now I'm going to get a little bit more tricky. Here is a skirt. And again, this is a Moschino designer silk skirt, one that I just absolutely love. Look at those rows. Okay, so we're going to measure a skirt. Skirts measurements do not necessarily require hips. I don't measure for hips. I only measure for hips on dresses. So for a skirt, you would start just like you would at the jeans waist. Start at the very end of the waist, pull the waist taut, and then end over here. So I'm looking at 14 1/4 inch across. And if you can see where that measurement is, where the skirt ends, just right above it. And then I would measure from the top hem of the skirt. And again, if you have skirts that are different lengths in front and back, I would strongly recommend that you measure those 2 lengths separately, so that your customer has an accurate reading. So we would start at the very top of the hem, very top of the waist, and we would measure all the way down in a straight line to the skirt, to the hem of the skirt. And here is our measurement for that. So I'm exactly at 19 inches on that. Hopefully you can see that. I'm exactly at 19 inches on that. So I would say it's 14.25 inches across the waist. And if somebody wants to know the entire waist, multiply it by 2. That's it. Just be like, oh, okay, it's, I don't know, 28.5 inches around the waist because it's 14 1/4. So those are measurements for skirts, jeans, pants, jackets, tops, and T-shirts. And let's go over one final piece. This is a dress. And notice the design on this dress. It's a very vintage dress. Because it is a vintage dress, it says size 8. You can't trust vintage sizes. You can't go, oh, well, it says a large, so it's a large. You can't trust any sizes, honestly, but especially specifically vintage. They have changed the sizes over and over the years. So it's always best to provide measurements for a dress. And the first thing that we'll do is take our handy dandy measuring tape and measure across the bust. Now, when it's a dress, there's no reason to say chest as opposed to bust, but it is entirely up to you, whatever gender neutral term you prefer. Okay, so we have this measurement across the bust, and that is 19 inches. That puts it modern measurements. It puts it right at a size medium. And I don't measure across the waist on these unless it has a very pulled in waist. I will measure across the hips. And usually you can kind of tell where the hips are because that's where the skirt that's where the skirt is flared out. So on a dress. So I usually put mine about midway between the top and the bottom. And here is the measurement across the hips. So we're going to start over here, making sure we're right at lining up those edges. And then we do, again, want to pull the cloth taut because we want to make sure that we have the most accurate measurement with no wrinkles in the middle. And that is right at 18 1/4 inches. So 18 1/4 inches across the hips. And again, if they're asking all the way around, just tell them, you know what, don't even tell them to multiply, just multiply it for them. They'll feel dumb enough, I'm sure. Okay, because this dress also is it's a mid-length dress. We don't say knee length because we don't know where anybody's knees are. So we always say mid-length. And we start at the top, and I'm going to start right where it's going to hit the shoulder, which is just a little bit. Since it's got a wide neck, it's just a little bit from the top, from the neckline. So we're going to start right about here, just where you think the shoulder is going to hit. And we are going to go all the way down. Go all the way down to the bottom of the dress. And at the bottom hem of the dress, that's where our final measurement for the dress is. I'll put this down and show you. So this dress at its hem is 36.5 inches long. Hopefully you can see that. And that, my friends, is how to measure most clothing items. There are things like hats. Most hats actually have the measurements in them, unless it is an adjustable hat like a snapback, in which case pretty much those are, if it's an adjustable hat, pretty much those are one size fits most, unless you absolutely have like a giant Easter Island head. I might know some people who do. And I don't talk out of school, so we won't do that. We also have things like aprons. With aprons, I think the waist measurement is the most important thing, and the length of the strings on the apron. So measuring across the waist, the length, and then measuring one string on the apron, assuming that both strings are about the same, you can get a kind of a good measurement on those lengths. So I hope this was helpful for everybody. And I look forward to, actually, I think what I'm going to do is save this one for editing. And then I think I'm going to actually hop back on live in about 10 minutes after I have a quick break to get some coffee. And we're going to open a ThredUp box. I just got a ThredUp handbag box, and we're going to open that together. So I'll see you all hopefully in about 10 minutes. Okay, bye.